What's up, Cal fans? Welcome back to another episode of the California Golden Bearcast, a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am one of your co-hosts, Andy. Alongside me, as always, is the cameraman from the goal line, Rob. How you doing over there?
It was very weird shooting a game on a Friday night and then having Saturday off. I kept telling the guys after we cleaned up our tailgate, like, tomorrow's Sunday, right? It's like, no, it's Saturday. We have the entire day. This is amazing.
Don't even get me started. Don't get me started on the Friday night. The Friday night madness, if you will. But all right, before we dive into that, let's start with the Bear Essentials. Let's hear from our buddy Bill.
One of the things that obviously we need to do a better job of third and long on defense, third down conversions on offense, ball security, things like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeremiah Holloway with Inside Carolina. Bill, of course, you did mention the fumble at the end. Did you get a chance to talk to Nathan after the play or after the game, anything like that?
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
We'll leave it at that one because that one's the best. It just what did he even say? I don't even know what he said.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Who's more difficult to understand, Bill Belichick mumbling or Ed Orgeron?
Oh, good one.
I don't know.
Orgeron doesn't actually speak English. We really want to have you down and play Ole Miss football. He's like the guy from from the Water Boy.
Ed Orgeron is what I would think of like a Louisiana alligator in a Disney show talking.
Cartoon. Yeah.
That's exactly who I think.
So easy to see. Yeah. So easy to see that.
It's incredible. It's incredible. But yeah, that's our buddy Bill, and who was not happy after his loss in Berkeley. But
I do think he said, "Yeah, we'll talk about it."
I'm pretty sure that's what he said. That sounds right.
Just exactly what you want to hear. I mean, that's such like an NFL mentality, you know. If you think about it, I think in a nutshell, like that's such an NFL response. Oh yeah, we haven't talked about it. We'll talk about it. We'll dress it. We'll dress that. But like you hear all the other coaches, and I think in college football it's so much more in a way like he's already come through the locker room at that point, so he's post locker room, and the fact that he's not really backing up his player there, it does say a lot. I think they have a lot heaped on them, and some of it's fair and some of it's unfair, but I do think that this is an interesting example where I can't imagine like a Dan Lanning or even Justin Wilcox. You know, Wilcox would always have his players back there and say, yeah, you know, he obviously understands it was a mistake and it had a big impact. But I think Wilcox would probably say something along the line, if I can use my degree in Wilcox coach speak, would be like, there were plenty other games or points in the game or plays in the game that made it a difference than just that single play.
Yep. Which is just it's a factual statement. Like that's not like a, you know, he's I don't know if that's necessarily he's like making an excuse, but he's just like factually pointing out to make sure people know like that's not the only thing that led us to a win or a loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Bill did not do that.
Nope. He did not.
He did not.
He did not. I mean, it wasn't just Bill, right? Like Jordan Hudson was there as well. She was there pregame. She was there after the game. I actually got a really cool picture of her as she walked down the south end zone, like in the fourth quarter. So
wow, are you full blown paparazzi now or what?
Maybe. I lucked out because I was in that end zone and I turned around and I see her walking down. So I turned my camera around and I got a really cool picture of her like side eye looking at the field. So I'll post that at some point, but
paparazzi Rob out here.
Paparazzi Rob, yeah, I know. TMZ.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go through key storylines. We'll talk about the Friday night stuff, but before that, look, this was a what team? This is the post Duke, what team is Cal going to be? Are we going to address any of the post bye week nightmares that we have had in the past? And, home game. I kind of did have this in my head beforehand, like Friday night, we're still 4-2. How many people are going to show up? What's the vibe going to be? There's a Hall of Fame celebration, which, by the way, I think I told you this, but I was really only expecting to see Alex Mack there. So seeing my former boss, and as you say, football dad, Jeff Tedford, there with the whole fam and grandkids was amazing.
Yep.
Let's talk Friday, though. Let's talk Friday nights. I despise my Friday night experience. I was in so much traffic from Moraga to Orinda. That traffic doesn't even exist. There shouldn't even be traffic there. It took us 40 minutes to get from Moraga to Orinda to then be able to go to Berkeley. What in the world? That was devastating. So everything was thrown off. I missed the entire Right for California tailgate, except I did see Avi there cleaning up at 7:15 and was like, look, I made it.
You know what? I need a side story to that. I think it was Nam. I got to the tailgate, or no, I was at the tailgate and I was talking to some people, and then Nam goes, hey, did you see Andy? And I was like, no, I don't think he's here yet. He's like, he goes, yeah, he is. He just walked through the tailgate. So I walked towards the La Russell concert because I thought you were like in the mosh pit in
nice.
There. And then I look at my phone as I search, I swear, for like 5 minutes. And I then look at my phone, and it's the text message that you sent to me and Avi saying, so I'm stuck in so much traffic, might not get there until after 6. And it was like 6:20 or something like that when I looked at my phone. So I was like, well, that was a lie.
Yeah, that was wrong. It was very wrong.
Absolutely wrong.
Absolutely wrong. Every single message I might have sent to anyone about that day felt like it was wildly inaccurate. It was so devastating. I just think like I hit so much of the post-work commute getting over. But then, shout out to the Lair of the Bear. I had an amazing experience there. Got to go with a couple that we met and their daughter at the Lair of the Bear, reunited. Saw a couple of counselors who did not recognize me, saw some others that did, and that was amazing. So again, a huge plug. I think, shout out to Adams. I think Adams is going to come join week 2. So if anyone else is interested, week 2, Lair of the Bear, we're hyping it up. You can hang out with Adams, the king of semantics debates, and myself, talk Cal football, play some pickleball, go for a hike, do water tube, water polo, which I could only play 1/4 of because I was dead tired afterwards. That place is amazing. It was such a good reminder of, they had like a campfire going. They had s'mores. Eva was like so excited. She was like, fire. And then there's like cheerleaders there. It was so cool. It was so well done.
Yeah.
And I got to bring a couple of buddies to that and some that don't even have kids. And I was still doing the hard sell. I was like, just come. It's all good. Just come. Just hang at the lake. It's all, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have kids to be there. It's just a vibe. But how was the La Russell concert?
It was awesome. So cool thing, before the La Russell concert, Marshawn shows up in a golf cart, and right next to our tailgate is the Black Bears, their tailgate, and Marshawn hands them a bunch of food in DoorDash like insulated bags. So I'm 99% sure he was filming a DoorDash commercial, and which is right next to our tailgate. So be on the lookout for a DoorDash commercial with Marshawn soon that might have us in the background. And I got some cool video of like him like taking out his camera to like take pictures of people.
Nice.
There at the Glade, hangs out. La Russell comes over, they hang out for a little bit. And then Marshawn just like there's a camera crew there, right? Once again, I'm assuming it's a DoorDash commercial. Marshawn just gets in the golf cart and then just leaves, and like with no one, like no staffers, no cameramen or anything. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you're just gonna let him leave? Like, you don't know where he's going. How are you gonna chase after him? And like into the night, he disappeared.
Yeah, you don't know where he goes. He
just left. He just left the Glade. It's just and that was that. And I saw him on the field in the first quarter, so he made it to the stadium.
Yeah, he like rode out on a bike.
Oh yeah, he did ride on a bike. Side
He's
note,
the international man of mystery. You know who should really think it's Dos Equis, right? Who does the most interesting man in the world.
the most interesting man in the world. Yeah.
They really need to make Marshawn the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah. Side note about that Marshawn bike thing too. Like someone told me about it before, like a couple days ago, and so I was like, okay, I know I have to be at the 50-yard line for that picture. And Andy, like a couple weeks ago at the Duke game, who led the team out on bikes? It was Oski and Rich Lyons, right? And so we had that exact same experience. So I figured they're going to take the same path. They're going to ride down the middle, down the ramp, through the tunnel, around the goalpost, and then in the middle of the color guard by the band, and then they'll ride past us. So all of us are on the 50-yard line, pointing our cameras at the tunnel. We see the thunderstruck starts to swell. We see, with my camera lens, I see Oski and Marshawn on the bikes, and they start to ride down the ramp, and they come right around the goalpost, and I'm like, oh, cool, this is going to be a great shot. And then all of a sudden, instead of cutting back in around the goalpost, they keep cutting wide, and they go around the color guard, and none of the cameramen could take pictures of that. So we're waiting on the other side of their color guard, and then Marshawn and Oski pop out, and then we get a couple of pictures of them riding past us, and then that was it. Like, we didn't get like a full look at them riding the bikes down because they took a path that none of us expected. So I hate it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
I love these updates of your life as a cameraman, person.
I had such good positioning too, buddy. I was like Shaq dominating the paint. Like I had so much space around me. Like, people can't see this picture, but I'm gonna text it to you right now so you can describe to them as in real time. I just sent to you. A buddy of mine took this picture for me, Tony, who stood behind all the photographers. So check your phone right now if you don't mind. Just look at that.
Hold on. Text blocker is it's past 9:30.
Oh my God. Is he opening it? He's
wow.
Look at that. Look at the prime real estate I have. Right? Lined up perfectly in the middle. Right?
Yeah. Perfect.
And
literally,
and what happens?
Legitimately perfect.
What happens? Oski and Marshawn do not come down the middle.
Wait, so they went around the band?
They went around the band. They went, so like, if you're looking at that picture, right? They went to the left. They went to the left around the band. And then they went around, they went behind us, and then back around the other side of the band, and then across the end zone, and then to where your section is.
Look at you rocking the Memorial Stadium Legends sweater.
Oh yeah. I gotta. We actually got one to Alex Mack when he got honored 2 weeks ago, and I got one to him, and then I checked what I saw him again 2 days ago. I checked in with him. I was like, "Hey, how'd the sweater fit? Like, how is it?" And he's like, "Dude, it was awesome." He said he showed his wife, but his wife was kind of just like shrugged. Like, didn't understand like how cool this was. So, but he said he loves it. So, I'm happy with that.
All right, let's pause there, take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about this game. What's up, Cal fans? We are back, fresh out the break. That's probably as good of a break we've ever done, Rob.
That's probably the cleanest break we've ever done.
I think so. All right. That's about as much positivity as we're going to have right now. Okay. We get to talk about this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that I state what exactly. So as I'm leaving, I run into Adams out of the gate in gate 6, I believe.
Yeah.
And I run up to him and I go, "That's the worst win I've ever seen in my entire life." And he goes, "That's exactly what I just told my father-in-law." And so that was a great bonding moment. But I do want to start there. So it's the worst win. It's the worst win I've ever seen in my life. And then I think there's sort of two perspectives that I've seen after this game. One was a win is a win, you take the win. Okay? And the other is this is a program changing, defining moment. Like that this win was so poor that this has bigger implications for the program long term. I think those are the two perspectives that I've seen the most. I haven't really seen anybody in the middle of like, this looked good, but this didn't look good. This was good over here. You know what I mean? They're just not as much of like, oh, we have this or that. So that's kind of where I want to start us. And the thing that I want to challenge, and I did wish I had a little bit more time to research this because I did want to put a little bit more oomph behind it. But one of the biggest thoughts that I've had is I've sort of read the folks that are saying at the end, even if it's someone that's like, yeah, it was a bad game. Yeah, it was poor this, poor that, but a win is a win and you take the win. And I think that like, I have a hard time buying into that right now. And I think that there's a couple of pieces. One, because we're in year 9, we're not in year 2, right? You're more accepting of a win that is achieved through less than ideal circumstances in year 2 than you are in year 9. But I also want to say that for anyone that's coming in without the context or putting that context and just saying you take a win and you move on, I don't believe that. I don't believe it at all. I think that if you are in any other scenario that you care about the inputs that impacted the outcome, you care about about that. You care about those details. And I do not understand the mentality of accepting the result blindly and saying that, hey, that's good enough, check the box, and I'm moving on. And maybe people aren't necessarily saying that. And I'm counting on you, Rob, to have some more of the balanced perspective here to help me with this. But I don't see it. I wouldn't look at anything else where I would be, it certainly had that in sports. Sports is an obvious one where you go in and you don't play well and you still will end up with a victory. But in the business world, it's much harder to say. So if I'm going to compare this to, let's say, a sales organization and you hit your target, but the way you got there was highly unpredictable, if anything, built on luck, and it was a magic moment at the end of, God, I'm going so business heavy here, so I'm going to cut this really short. But at the end of the quarter, that ended up getting you there, as a deal came out of left field that you didn't see coming and close in one day. Nobody's going back and looking at that process and saying, great, let's scale that. That's awesome. I mean, I guess maybe you can celebrate it a little bit, but it's not repeatable. You're not building any foundation. You're not creating anything that you can actually build towards success in the future. And so that's what I have a very hard time understanding, is coming back from this and saying, hey, let's throw away the game tape. Let's throw away everything. Let's throw away what the pregame storyline was with how bad UNC was. UNC was bad, and then the team that I watched was like watching an FCS team. False start penalties left and right. Like dumb, mind-blowing plays that just, I was so frustrated watching this because I'm like, Cal is so much a better team than the one that is on the opposing sideline. And we did the same thing that we have done too often, where we just let them, we don't have that mentality. We don't have the ability to take away the belief. We don't have the ability of putting the game out of reach early and then just shutting them down. And I think that I left Memorial Stadium not quite as, a little bit more angry than I am now, but it wasn't something that I was necessarily expecting after a win. I'll pause there. That's a lot. Would love to hear your thoughts.
So I've been trying to process, because we got to talk about the addendum to that story, right? Is you and Adams met at the stadium, and then you guys were down next to Underhill, and who did you run into? You run into me. And then you guys tag team into this discussion against me about this, and we stand there and have a 5-minute conversation about this, which wasn't enough time to flesh any of this out. But
Is this just evidence that we need to have the post-game pod?
maybe this is the
Post-game
evidence
pod
of we just need to have a live stream, just like sitting at some like corner.
At Raleigh's?
Yeah. It's too loud in there. It's way too loud.
Raleigh's was wild after.
Yeah, we got to find. It's Friday night too, right? So, but
Yes.
yeah, maybe it is one of those things where we got to find a place and do like a quick 30-minute live stream hit between the two of us to like unpack the game. So, let me walk you through like my thought process on this, and I think for me, with this type of win, I tried to separate and most games, honestly, in a season, I try to separate the game by game analysis and if that affects the long term, because the fact of the matter is we still have 5 games left in the season, and I don't know what trajectory that's going to take. I mean, we can all project what trajectory it's going to take, but we don't know what trajectory it's going to take until the football is actually played. So, like, I understand taking and looking at this and being frustrated and all of that. I think it's all absolutely valid. But just for me personally, like, I need that type of, I'm in the camp of like, a win's a win, great. But that's just by a game basis. If we're going to look at the macro and the season as a whole, then of course, that's where the nuance and the analysis of each game and how we got there matters just as much, when we need to evaluate the season as a whole and if it is a foundational thing where we can move on. Because, it's tough to do it game by game because there's going to be game highs and there's also going to be game lows. We have to look at the trends overall over the course of a season to figure that out. So that's the first part. I think in regards to this game and the elevated sense of coming out of a bye week, there was so much mixed emotions, right? Like, because some people were like, "Oh, Wilcox sucks out of a bye week, so we're probably going to lose to North Carolina," and there was also people of like, North Carolina sucks, so we might come out guns blazing after it and blow them out because they're really bad. I think we kind of fell somewhere in the middle of that, where we did win coming out of a bye week, but we didn't blow them out and play really amazing out of it. So it's kind of like that little balancing act of which way do you slightly lean more, because I don't think it's really one or the other. It's somewhere in the middle. So like that's kind of like the thing I've been wrestling with the last 24 to 48 hours is like how I can't grade this game in terms of how foundational it is, because I still need to see the rest of the season and how it plays out, because the reasons why we won this game and how badly we played, I know we can talk about the reasons behind it, of the drops or certain players not playing well, certain players playing well, issues here and there, but like all of that is a part of a team that was kind of cobbled together kind of last minute, at least offensively, and with a true freshman quarterback. And I think that nuance does need to be applied. Like, it's not as, I wish it was more black and white. And I think if Nando was still the quarterback here and, Jaden was still the running back here, I think it would be a lot more black and white if we had this type of win against that. But like, we knew the struggles that we were going to have with a true freshman quarterback. And I'm just talking about the offense right now, right? The defense, that's its own, we have other discussions we can have, but we knew we were going to have struggles with the offense because we had a true freshman quarterback. It does seem like Jaren has hit that freshman wall. The skill position players definitely haven't gotten better as the season's progressed, and we've lost a lot there, and we weren't able to replenish the talent there. And with the running backs, like we've talked about it so much, but like we weren't able to really replenish the explosiveness of the running back room that late in the cycle. So we're just gonna have to figure it out as we went along. And so, like, all of that nuance with how the team composition is and all of that, I think does still need to be taken into account. But once again, I think your opinions are just as valid because it is year 9. But just for me personally, it's like I can't get frustrated with just this one style of win because I need to see the season as a whole. And like honestly, also part of me is like we were losing these types of games last year. And that's not to say, that's not me projecting into the future of like, since we lost rock fights last year and coin flips, but we're winning coin flips and rock fights this year, like we should be, trending up next year. Now that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying I'm enjoying this win just because it is still a win and we weren't winning these rock fight coin flip games last year. Like we were losing all of them. So in that sense, like I'm not as frustrated because I'm still enjoying the win as a win in itself. If that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a decent bit there. I am curious. Did this not feel oddly similar to the Boston College game?
Well, I mean, a rock fight game is a rock fight game, right? Like it's going to feel similar regardless. Like, you could Burke 97 on Right for Cal is doing his, rock fight article, and we get little peeks into as he's doing the data. And the one thing he posted this morning was this is the first rock fight win since UC Davis 2022 and the first P4/P5 rock fight win since the Lightning Bowl in 2019. So if you look at that and those types of games, yeah, they're all eerily similar.
Was the Lightning Bowl Levi the one at Levi's?
No. The Lightning Bowl, the Thor Bowl, the one that went into like 2 a.m. on that Saturday.
Oh,
in
Washington?
Seattle. Yeah.
Okay. Look, the fact that you even said this is the rock fight game, we go back to UC Davis. I mean, there's a problem with that. There's just a problem there. I think that the thing is yes, you're right. We're winning these games, but I don't think we're winning these games because we have gotten better. I think we're winning these games because the schedule has gotten easier, and that you could make a really easy case that if it isn't for a dropped pass in the end zone against Boston College and a fumble on the half-yard line against North Carolina, two teams that are at the bottom of the ACC and look terrible, we would be 3-4. Right? And not 5-2 with the easiest schedule we've ever had in the history of the program. There isn't any beating. Like, there's no getting around this. Like, I can't contextualize it anymore. I can't come in and say, yeah, look at the greater picture of what's happened with the transfers. And it's the same way that when after Oregon State, it was so easy for everybody to envision us going to the playoff, because we knew the patty cake schedule that was in front of us this year and how easy it would have been for any mediocre team to take advantage of that. Truly, all we had to do was rank in the top 60 in order to probably go 8-4, if not 9-3 with the schedule that we have this year. It is a ludicrously easy schedule. And we play down to our opponents in the games where we're heavily favored. We play up to our opponents in the games that we are underdogs, which means we are never favored or we can never count on a victory at any given time. And it effectively makes every game a toss-up and a coin toss. And so we live in this coin toss reality where some of it's gone well this year and some of it in the past has not. But what are we even building? Like, what does this win say? Like, UNC rolling in and looking that hapless and yet still having ultimately the win at their hands. I mean, at that time, Rob, they are going to score, right? Our defense is gassed. They are going to score. That dude is wide open with the ball, and I don't even know how. It was like the Peanut Tillman punch of the century. And
you got to credit Brent. You got to credit Paco for that punch out.
I know it was amazing. It was incredible. But yeah, like they're going to take the lead. Jaren is out, so we had at that time Devin Brown was in the game. right? Because Jaron was shook up a
Yeah,
little
he was
bit.
out. He was out for one play. Yeah.
So it was looking like Cal goes down and then has Devin Brown with the game on the line to a UNC team that might be the worst team that we play all year. And I don't even think that's hard to even see. I'm not sure we're going to see any opponent be worse than what we just saw. I don't know.
Well, also Jaron came back into the game.
No,
after.
I know. I was just saying in that moment, it's sort of like what was stacking up and why it was really looking dark. And then we walk away with the win, but like no one walks away from that feeling good. And I think at the end of the day, it's, again, I just don't think a win is a win. I don't think anyone that attended that game comes out of that game saying, yes, I feel good about where the future of this program is going. Yes, that this is something that I feel like is sustainable and that I want to invest in and that I want to make sure that I sign my family up for more of, or I sign my friends up for more of, or I go home and I talk to people and I talk about, hey, what an awesome experience it was going to the Cal game on Friday night, right? And like, that's what we need to be doing. The window that is in front of this program, if we are evaluating based on the standards that I think are exactly appropriate that Ron has talked about, give us 2 to 3 years at maximum to sort of figure this out. And that game is the type of game that sets us back and gets everybody to saying, this is the stuff that was on KMBR. This is Cal is Cal, right? Cal is Cal. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it. Like my standards for this with the situation in front of us, I just think I'm ready to elevate. And this is becoming like the appetite and the patience and the willingness to go through that level of play is dissipating very quickly. And one of the biggest issues I have is that we have no identity. And one of the biggest things that Wilcox had at the beginning of his tenure was we had a strong defensive identity. We had a strong tackling inside linebacker identity. So when I went to Oregon or I went to these games, I would say, look, are we going to beat the Ducks on the road at Autzen? Maybe not. But I knew what team was going to show up. I knew that we were going to force that team out of their intended play style, and they were going to play Cal football. And we were going to define how the game was going to go. It wasn't always going to go in our favor. And that was like what we had for several years. We could depend on that. 2018, 2019, maybe being sort of like going into 2020, feeling like the peak of that, what the takers was going to be, and then COVID hits. But that was like when we had that very, very clear identity. This is a defensive first team that's led by the linebacking unit that's going to shut down opponents, and we are going to truly play rock fight football. Since then, I do not understand what we do well and what we don't do well. It just seems like a mixed bag. Sometimes special teams plays well, some teams it doesn't. Sometimes offense looks good, then they disappear for 2 quarters. Sometimes defense looks great for a quarter, and then they give up a bajillion yards in 2 quarters. It doesn't make there's no consistencies. And if there's no consistencies, then what can I bet on? There's nothing that I can hang my hat on right now with this team. And I find that in the broader context of what we need, how do you recruit when you have no identity? That's the thing. It goes back to, at the end of the day, what do we need to do? We need to recruit at a high level. Well, it's easy for players to understand how they can fit into a gap, plug a hole, or add on top of something that a team does well when you have the baseline identity. But when I don't know, do you feel differently, Rob, when you look at this team? Like, is there an identity that speaks to you?
I'm going to push back a little bit on that because I feel like it's a little bit of recency bias and revisionist history a little bit, just because I think since the takers, I'm going to make the point that like we've put in the NFL quite a few number of defensive backs. Like that's been the identity of the defense, is we've transitioned because we weren't able to recruit in defensive linemen to really help after the departures of guys like Cam Good. And so we went fully in with the inside linebackers, which I think we've done a very good job of pipelining. And then, we said that at the start of the year, like our defensive back recruitment and development has been definitely a plus part of our team building. We knew for this season there were going to be issues because these are 4 guys that have never played with each other, and we have a true freshman starting out there at safety. Like, we knew we were going to have defensive lapses and busted coverages, particularly on the back end in moments. I think for the most part, we've played pretty solid on the back end, but definitely we've given up plays. Like, there were a couple in the UNC where guys were just wide open, and that's just busted coverage.
In the middle.
In the middle, yeah. But that's also because, once again, it's 4 guys that haven't played before, and we're stacking that up against, like, last year, those 4 guys, 5 guys, including Miles Williams, played together for 2 years. The Takers 2.0 before that, like, played together for 2 years. And then the Cam Bynum, like Jalen Hawkins, those guys played together for what, like 3 or 4 years together. So, like, that identity, I think, has always been there. And, you know, we said that, I think we both agreed before the season started, defensive back talent identification and also development was not something we were worried about. And I'm not truly worried about it. Like, I think we knew what we had going in. We knew it was going to be there were going to be some growing pains processes with that on the back end, and we were just going to have some other parts cover. And I think they kind of gambled on, you know, guys like TJ Bush and Ryan McCullough. And, you know, I think the Ryan McCullough injury has definitely hurt us a lot more than we anticipated. But we haven't really been able to replace someone like Xavier Carlton this offseason. So I know it's just a small part. Like, you know, there is I understand the broader trend, but I do think the identity of, like, us being a very defensive back and that part of the game being sound and solid is still there. It's just this particular year, much like quarterback, because we have a true freshman out there playing, and the decision making and the teamwork thing isn't fully there yet. Like, we were definitely gonna have some moments of lapses. So that's the one thing I would push back on. But I think overall, you're not wrong by any means.
I think that young players and inexperienced players should be able to fit into a system and be able to produce and be able to be held to a high standard.
Oh,
Because,
absolutely. Absolutely.
I remember Cam Bynum as a freshman, and I remember Craig Woodson, because Craig originally start as cornerback, and then we moved him to safety.
That was
And then-
Elijah Hicks.
Oh, that was
Hicks.
Elijah.
Hicks
Okay.
we moved to safety.
Elijah. Yeah.
But we
But,
moved him later, like his senior years when we moved him to safety.
Yes. I think, like, that's the thing that's missing for me. It's the structural component behind, like, where you would expect some of the mistakes to happen, and you're like, okay, I get it, right? It's one of those years, but the foundation still looks good. The structure still looks good. I'm saying the structure is wobbly, and
I think the structure of the defensive backs actually looks fine. I think, like, we've never started a true freshman at safety under Wilcox. Aiden's the first one. Like, Cam was a redshirt, so he was here for a year. Craig also was a redshirt, didn't start his first year here. Aiden's the first one to come in and just go straight from high school to starting spot. So, and then the other guys are all transfers in their first year here, right? So, yeah, that's my just a little fact check there.
it's it's a good fact check. I think the horse is dead at this point, but I think that to go full circle here, that's a win is a win in challenging that right. Like, Bill Walsh is the one that said the score takes care of itself, right? And I feel like we're winning on luck. We're winning on the difference of fortune. We're in 2 ways. One, the ball is bouncing our way, and the second being that the schedule is easier with the opponents that we're playing. And then every week, what I see is, like, the schedule that we have played gets easier in the sense of the opponents that we have played. And then what happened to me this time, which is where I really started spiraling, was when I was watching the Auburn game and seeing that, like, Hugh Freeze, you know, when we were, like, so hyped about the Auburn game and that win, and that doesn't even look like a good program. And then you start to you can, like, really go rabbit hole down that way. And then I watched the FSU Stanford game, and you look at what's happening there, and I actually think that they're actually laying a pretty good foundation on the farm, and they're building it back up from the ground floor up. It's taken a bit, but what Andrew Luck has done there and what Frank Reich has done yes, it's volatile. So sometimes you have good weeks, sometimes you don't. But they played SMU pretty tight for the first half. Like there's these things that you can see that you're like, okay, you're building the foundation of this. This is where we ultimately could be. And I don't know. Maybe the only thing I can think of is perhaps that I've been evaluating this as a make or break season, and that it's year 9 and it's the easiest schedule we've ever had. It's the biggest opportunity for Cal to be in the national spotlight. And I had a bunch of people around me, hint, hint, wink, wink, that are saying 10 wins, and I'm saying 6-6, right? So I'm like holding back from willing, but I'm seeing the opportunity, right? I'm seeing the light that's happening all around me because of the unique circumstance that we're in. But instead, what's actually happened is that this is more of like a rebuilding year at the worst possible time. And I think Avi actually wrote a really good article about this, about like Cal's like actually just paying down its debt from previous seasons and not being able to build enough of a foundation to take advantage of this moment. And therefore, we're just like living the same reality that we have already lived instead of being able to take a meaningful step forward. And so it makes each one of these games harder and harder and harder. But this game had such a big impact for me because when you don't have the actual evidence to support that we have some form of sustainable success against an opponent that is horribly, horribly overmatched, and then you look at Virginia Tech on the road, you look at Virginia at home, Louisville on the road, I think I'm forgetting somebody in here, Stanford on the road, and then SMU at home. You cannot tell me that any one of those games that you could look at Cal as a favorite. And dude, after that Stanford game, I'm like, there's no way. That's a toss-up for me. Every game is a toss-up. We could go 5-7. We could go 6-6 like I predicted. We could win 8 games. But I think even if we win 8, I'm not sure if I don't even know if it's enough. And that's like a whole other can of worms.
I think that I understand what you're saying. And I think the differences between you and me is you're grading the season as it happens and in projecting the future. Whereas for me, I'm taking it game by game and saying I'll eval the season, and if it's a foundation or a breaking point at the end of the season. And I think that's where the difference is.
Wait, that's a little bit of a cop out.
I'm not saying no. I don't think it's a cop out. I think because that's been my thing. Like I'm gonna enjoy the game to game basis of it.
We said we evaluate in quarters. We said we evaluate 4 game set, then we would evaluate a 4 game set.
Yeah.
And then we evaluate a 4 game set.
Yeah. But in that context was about when we're going through the season and readjusting where we think we'll be in the next 4 games. That wasn't me talking about the entire season as a whole and whether, like, I think the biggest question on everyone's mind right now, of course, is like, should we retain Wilcox or should we start a new thing? Like for me, it's just like that question. Well, 1, I have no influence over that decision. 2, I'll eval that at the end of the year. Like, sure, there might be evidences already, like you and Adams, that point to like we should move on and make a change. But like I'm just saying, just for me personally, like I'll just look at all of that big picture and all of that at the end of the season. Like I'm not, for me, I'm not going to let that deter me from just enjoying like living through like each game by game. That's just me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I did feel that way where I just was like at the point of I was like unable to enjoy the win, and that was a weird moment for me.
Yeah, which I think is absolutely fair. So like I think that's what I'm saying is the difference between you and me right now with this discussion is that's like the lens we're both looking at this differently from.
All right, the horse is dead. I've said my thing. We'll move on. So like bigger implications, and I'm gonna let you take this because I cannot talk about the fact that we are 5-2 right now and 2-1 in conference play.
Wilcox
in October.
Wilcox has never been 2-1. He's never been 5-2. So incredible timeline of events.
We're in an unprecedented.
We're truly in
territory.
uncharted waters.
Okay, so yeah, what do you think? Where do we go from here? Obviously, like I think people can. Mine's easy. I think we could lose every single game left on the calendar. I think we could win one game left on the calendar, and I certainly wouldn't bet on any more than the 2 wins. I think for the rest of the year. But Rob, from your perspective, like, is 10-2 still in play? Like, no, like where are we at with this thing?
I mean, let's see. I'm thinking of the schedule in my head. I mean, 10-2, of course, is just there as a numerical like possibility. From a realistic standpoint,
Truly Dumb and Dumber, you're telling me there's a chance. It's still alive.
Yeah, it's like mathematically there, right? Because there's enough games where you can win where you get to 10-2. You know, that magic number goes away if we lose to Virginia Tech this Friday. So
If we get to 10-2 and I spent so much of this season not enjoying that ride, then I'm gonna go to therapy.
maybe that's the answer. It's weird. I mean, that's why I think I'm kind of taking it as a game by game basis, and a week to week. And so, you know, we'll think about Virginia after we beat Virginia Tech, on Friday night. But yeah, I mean, I think Virginia Tech. I think the line just dropped this morning. I think Virginia Tech's favored by either 2.5 or 3.5. So that's
Which is, don't even get me started. I'll go right back. That just triggers. I'm just triggered right now. Everything triggers me.
Yeah.
They've already fired their coach. The fact that we're not favored in that game. We're 5-2. They fired their coach. We're underdogs. I mean, I don't blame Vegas. I think that's right.
I think they
do
always
feel
give
like-
kind of the cross country like ride is
Yeah.
like always like a weird
Yeah.
underdog thing.
Yes. Rob, I feel like you're the friend that I talk to about the relationship. I'm like, hey, how's it going with so and so? And you're like, we're on a week by week basis. You don't talk about anything long term. We're just seeing it as it goes. We're just living life. We're living life.
I mean, I would have looked at it as a long-term basis if this was a few years ago. But yeah, right now I think it's just it just doesn't do me any good to like be thinking about what it's going to look like come December. Like it's October. I'm just going to enjoy October as it is and then November as it is.
But like, why do you think UCLA, I mean, Deshaun Foster was totally different, but
Yeah, it's a different
I
story.
do think like, as you look at the other programs, right? Florida fired Billy Napier this week. Mike Norvell his job is as hot as anybody. Penn State has already fired James Franklin.
Mhm.
Who else am I missing? Like Jonathan Smith's on thin ice at Michigan State.
Arkansas
Has
Arkansas
Bobby
is
Petrino
open.
somehow as their head coach, which
Oregon
is
State just fired Trent Bray.
Oregon State fired Trent Bray, who we played earlier this year.
Weirdly, USC and Lincoln Riley's like there's like rumors of him being on the hot seat. I don't think they're going to fire him, but there was rumors there. Wisconsin and Fickle. That looks like he's on the hot seat there, and because they're 2-5.
So we can. I mean, that's a good enough sample size to say some programs have like USC is a perfect example. They got rid of Clay Helton early in the season to then make a move. There's sort of two scenarios I would love your thoughts on here. One is the Clay Helton scenario where you make the move to go and spend enough time to have a longer process to hire the next coach. In theory, getting somebody, at the time, Lincoln Riley was a hell of a coup for USC. It hasn't worked out as well as I think they had hoped, which obviously from our end, we would take any day of the week.
Sure.
There's that, but then there's also a little bit of like the UCLA path, which is you fire Deshaun Foster, and all of a sudden the team rallies around the new interim coach and looks inspired. And you start to like see a different identity with the same players that you had. And that gives you an ability of saying, hey, maybe we have the solution here in-house Sometimes it doesn't work out. See Deshaun Foster as that example. But there's other times where. Oh, sorry, Rob.
No, I'm just saying I was just making some noises at what you were talking about with UCLA. But yes, continue.
So I would love like those two scenarios. Why do you make the move early? What advantage? Like, is there an opportunity cost that we don't talk about? And if you don't have to touch on that entirely, but I am just curious, like from a strategic high level standpoint, not relating to Cal, there are teams that make that move. Why do they make that move? What advantage does it give them in comparison to other teams? And then the second is, how do you evaluate the opportunity cost between looking at something that you've already seen for an extended period of time versus actually turning over the keys and saying, hey, could this look a little bit different within, some of the existing staff that we have in-house? Maybe even using the example of like, when we've let go of an offensive coordinator and all of a sudden the offense looked like way different in the following weeks. And I think that's a good example of when you can sort of see that rally cry or just sort of the different ideas come to life.
I mean, personally, I think if you look at, let's start with the Deshaun Foster thing. Like, I think you look at that situation and you kind of knew going into this year this was going to be a hot seat year for you, just because, as you know, the entire conversation we've had where you were talking about, not seeing a foundation or a future, that's kind of what UCLA saw last year, right? And then you come into the season and you start off with those god-awful 3 games to start. I think then you're at the point of, with the interim, like, they have nothing to lose. For them, it's a job. It's a job interview, because there's no guarantees that they're going to hire Neuheisel. Like, there's no, like, in all of those guys so they can start like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like that Penn State game, they score on that first drive and then immediately kick an onside kick to recover the ball. Like, a normal game with a normal coach in a normal situation isn't doing that. But like, because they're at the point of who the hell cares, that's why it starts to look electric, because they're fearless in that regard. They have no regard for any risk. They're not risk averse at all, because they're going to be fired / out of a job anyways. So like, what's the use there? And so you're just throwing the kitchen sink at every single game possible. And also the UCLA situation with Jerry Neuheisel is also slightly different, just because Jerry Neuheisel is a former quarterback for the university and he loves the university, and he's always said that he wants to be the head coach here. Like, that's his dream job. So like, that's probably why he's a little bit more invigorated in terms of, wanting the team to do better. So there's a little bit of a difference there. The Clay Helton stuff is funny too, because they went 6. I was just looking this up while you were talking, but they went 6-5 the year before they fired him, and then they went and won their first game against San Jose State 30-7, and then they lost to Stanford the following week, and then that's when they fired him. So it's the timing for that is very weird. And honestly, Andy, I think the simplest answer for like why you would do that and all that stuff, money. It's just like, why are some of these teams doing this, or why are some of these teams able to do this? Money is like the simplest answer I can give.
Money and circumstance, right? I think
it's money and circumstance. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's like,
to be fair, like Michigan State has unlimited time to cycle through bad coaches and be fine, because they're in a protected conference.
Yeah. And much like some of these other schools, the amount of money that they have via the donors that are invested in the football program allows them to do such things. And also, firing a head coach like this does not have any ramifications on their hiring process of the next one, because they have the war chest to be able to do so. But a lot of the other schools really don't have that. And I think we're also in that category of we really don't. So, and like, if we're going to talk about us, Like it would. I think the conversations I've had today, and just to gain some other points of view, is like Ron's been talking about like getting everyone to buy in, right, and getting everyone invested into this, regardless of the circumstances, and trying to change the national narrative. I think sometimes we're so inside this bubble of just being Cal fans, where we're so locked into our games only, that we don't recognize that the narrative of us nationally is starting to change, where people are looking at, because they're not watching our games fully, right? You know, they're just like, and being like, and have watched our games prior to be like, oh, this is just typical Cal. Like, they're looking at this game, they're like, oh, wow, they won. And then, you know, or Saturday morning or Sunday morning, you know, national people are looking at the win-loss columns, and they're like, wow, Cal's 5-2, and they're 2-1 in conference. Oh, wow. They're like, they're a team, versus the prior years of just like straight up losing and being like, yeah, Cal sucks, and they don't care about their football program and they're not invested. Like, that's the narrative that Ron's trying to change first. And the moment we start to change that, I think a lot of things will start to carry itself. It opens us up to more recruits. It opens us up to more coaching availabilities, both at head coach and at the assistant level. It brings in maybe the average Cal fan who was out in the wind a little bit, and it brings in maybe donors that were just there for the football experience and not really like about the football X's and O's. Maybe you bring a couple of those back in from the Wild, because they're like, oh, this is a place to kind of invest back into. So I think that's the thing he's trying to change first, and like, that's not going to happen without like the grassroots movement and a little bit of the grunt work. Because as of right now, like, even if our job were to open, like, I don't think our program and where it stands right now with just how people view it is going to put us in like even a middling part of the domino effect of like the coaching carousel, right? I think our job and the Cal job probably still puts you in the lower half, if not the bottom 25% of openings, depending on what other jobs are open. But like, as of right now, more high tier jobs are opening up before, or like into this cycle, which is like, this cycle is going to be absolutely bonkers in terms of how the hirings go.
We will talk about this one day. Well, it's not going to be today. There's not enough time. But I think I like what you said a lot on the 5-2 piece, 2-1, and the perception nationally versus the perception locally, and the perception of the like very, you know, into it fan versus that of the casual. I think that's like actually a really good point. But I would also make the case that the foundational stuff that I see Ron doing has nothing to do with the record, because at the end of the day, it's like not something that we can necessarily control. The
True.
foundational stuff that I see is the fact that he is publicly out there all the time on the same talking points, talking through exactly what needs to happen. The things like the Black Bear Den, or, you know, whatever, I might have just added den to that, but I think it's a good idea. But, you know, I see Oski's Village and Eva's experience there going, and our friend's experience with their daughter there, and doing the football thing, and then running through the big blow up and the TVs and the tailgating scene. Like, those are the things. I'm sure there's so much more than just that, but those are the things that I see foundationally that are different. And that's also the stuff that's going to change, because it's like winning at home first and then extending out. Because you're right, like, the casual fan is never probably going to give us more than a glance, and probably never watch more than the first half. And a lot of those people are probably watching because it's on at a bar. So it's good that we look good in the first quarter. But I just don't think you can make that bet based on the ultimate, like, especially this year, because we're in the ultimate prisoner's dilemma, right? And that's the ultimate piece is, do you have to end up making a decision based on extending, given one of the easiest strength of schedules we've ever seen? And like, that's a whole other bag of worms that you get into that starts to like make this scenario even more complicated. So I hope we get there, because I do agree with you. At the end of the day, if you're 8-4 and you're in a bowl game, and like who knows, maybe you end up getting kind of, you know, smacked in the bowl game, but like no one really ever remembers that well. They're not like, oh yeah, I like watched that bowl game and Cal was really bad. I like at the end of the day, they're like, did they make the bowl game? Yes, no. It's sort of like it's very black and white in how we remember those things.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think I just want to correct you a little bit on what my point was with like what Ron's changing. I think the big thing is like Ron wants investment of people that are into the program, like, you know, the diehards into the program, regardless of if we're winning or losing. Like he wants us there, like through thick and thin, right? That's why he's saying like leave the TV on at home or watch on YouTube TV, even though you're at the games. Like all of that matters. Like even we talk about Ron being out there publicly, but like us being there in the stands and the stands looking full on TV, like all of that matters despite what the records show, right? And that's the thing that you were alluding to. It's like it's not always about the 5-2 record, and that's the point I'm echoing here. Is like regardless of that, and regardless of if it looks foundational, like to going into next season, like we need to be there just because realignment is happening again soon in the next few years, and those are the things that we can genuinely put our hand imprint on in like helping this program, making sure it survives. Because like right now people are, you know, I've seen the tweets, I've seen the people saying like, you know, I'm not going to invest in this program, or like, you know, I want a change first before I do X and Y. Like do you guys not like remember what we went through with realignment and like the potential of us being left behind? That like in that thought process alone is like because of the results, of course, right? And it goes it's the chicken or the egg, and it goes hand in hand. But like that, the one thing that we can influence is how we are perceived as a fan base and as a program, and whether we bring value to it beyond just the wins and losses. Because the wins and losses, it comes here and there, right? You can ask Michigan about that. You can ask Ohio State about that. You can ask Northwestern about that. You can ask any university basically about that. Because, you know, you have good years and you have bad years. But the one thing that remains constant is how bought in is the fan base regardless of it. And if you want, I think we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, right? Like if you truly trust Ron in making the right decisions, then the one thing we can do is support the program as a whole, like as a bannerman, and supporting the program via watching the game, being the game. Maybe you don't even have to watch the game, but just have it on your TV. Like it just mute it. Like if you don't want to watch the game, but like all those things like help in building this program towards the point of where we want it to go. And those are tangible, actionable items that we're able to do to help Ron in enacting his vision of getting this program to a place that he wants, and we ultimately want as well.
Well said, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can close the books. That was North Carolina. What an experience.
On to Virginia Tech.
On to Virginia Tech. All right, Rob, take us home.
Well, thanks for listening to the California Golden Bearcast. This was our recap on the North Carolina game. We have Virginia Tech coming up on Friday. I believe the kickoff is at 4:30 or 4 o'clock on Friday. The Ride for California away game watch party is happening at Headlands. Headlands also is having their grand opening this week, so there's going to be a great deal on pints, or I believe pitchers. There's going to be giveaways. I believe the first 100. I don't want to mistake myself, so I'm gonna lowball the number. I think it's the first 100 pints ordered. You get a Cal like glass that you can take home. So come on by, hang out with the staff, be there for the watch party there. We're going to do some giveaways with Ride for Cal stuff as well. So come and hang out. Enjoy your time out. I checked the weather app earlier. I mean, it's still a few days away, but it does look like it's going to be a nice day out. So it's early enough. You'll be home by 7:30.
Friday night. I'll be home by 7:30.
You'll be home by 7:30. Yeah, because it's a 4:30 kick, right? It's the
gosh.
first Friday game because we're on the East Coast. So,
well, there's an argument to be made there. at least I can uphold. After this last weekend, I was like, I need to take a hiatus from drinking and watching Cal games.
Yeah.
I didn't even go celebrate at Kip's. That's how I was down bad. I wasn't at Kip's on Friday night.
Yeah.
There was discussion, but we ultimately decided not. Dude, you know where we went to? We went to that like viral campus burger spot with the $1.99.
Oh yeah, the like the $2 smash burger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing is really good.
Yeah,
Really good.
For the amount you're paying, it's a solid burger.
Even if I was paying more, it was delicious. The double cheese.
Oh yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
And like better fries than In-N-Out. So, I mean, I know that's a low bar, but
Yeah, it's a low bar. That's a low bar. But yeah, that wraps it up for us here on the Golden Bearcast. You can get at us on Twitter at Golden Bearcast. You can email us goldenbearcast@gmail.com. You can find the written stuff over at refcalifornia.com. And if you're listening to us, you know where to find us, so I don't need to tell you where to listen to your podcasts. But that wraps it up for us here on the Golden Bearcast. See you for the Virginia Tech watch party at Headlands on campus this Friday at 4 o'clock. And as always, go Bears.
go Bears.